For a second there, I didn't believe we were going to be getting an Assassination Classroom episode today, because I have all my anime episodes when I'm going to sit down and watch them written down, and I do know that there was a recent time change, Spring Forward, and last week we already had Spring Forward, but apparently that didn't really count until this week, and so I was like wondering, where the hell is Assassination Classroom? Like, it feels like it's delayed or something. Is it not coming out this week? Because, I mean, I know there's some anime that tend to kind of go on a brief hiatus in between seasons, like, you know, from winter to spring season. Some anime just take a one episode break and then continue once the new season begins, and since we are at that time of the year, I was assuming that's what was going on, but apparently not. So I'm glad Assassination Classroom came out. It's very good to see Assassination Classroom, because I was getting some withdrawals. I mean, I miss actually seeing Koro Sensei and everybody else. I mean, after last week, the final chapter of the manga, and the episode right after that, it's left a little bit of a hole in my heart, knowing that, you know, I'm not going to get as much Assassination Classroom as I'm used to. So, this episode, it kind of continues on with the E-Class versus A-Class, and concludes that a little bit, but then ventures on to Koro Sensei versus the Principal. And this right here is something I've been very excited for since the beginning of, you know, Season 2. Since I read this part of the manga, I've been very excited to see this animated, because I've always wanted to see the actors. I wanted to see the voice acting, I wanted to see the music they would use, and the way it would be displayed through the anime. And when I saw this episode and it was prepping up for that scene at the end, I'm like, fuck yes, it's gonna be fucking awesome. And before I even get into that, okay, let me just cover all the other topics, because that's something I'm really excited to talk about. Let me just talk about everything else first. So, E-Class and A-Class, they go up against each other, and it's kind of like the final fight between Asano and Karma, as they go up against each other trying to figure out this equation that they're trying to figure out, you know, conclude, and figure out what they need to write down for it. Karma manages to overcome this problem thanks to the help of everybody in E-Class. And if it wasn't for everybody's support and, you know, being there for him in his time of need, he probably would not have been able to solve this problem like he did. Now, Asano, on the other hand, he was solving the problem. But because of certain ways his upbringing was, especially with his teaching, he couldn't solve the problem exactly like how Karma did. And because of this, it led it to where he was doing a very long explanation of how he got this answer, and it caused it to where he ran out of time, he ran the clock down, and he didn't get the full points that he wanted from the problem. So, which caused it to where Karma won. I just love it where E-Class just won with a landslide. They came in and just wrecked house on everybody in A-Class, the top 50 students. They just fucking decimated everybody. Everybody freaking got shoved down to where E-Class used to be, and E-Class is now on top. I mean, when Terasaka is on the top 50, you know for a fact that A-Class fucked up big time. Now, we do know that this test was very, very hard, because for one, it had it to where you had this college level type stuff going on throughout the entire test, and it was kind of showing which had a better teaching method. Was Koro Sensei a better teacher, or was, you know, the principal a better teacher towards his students? And we get to see at the end of the day who has better teaching methods, even though they're very, very helpful. Both teaching methods do show results. They have different ways and different endpoints to where they could really help out in certain situations. And seeing how the principal's teaching method was done, how he forces his students to cram in a certain given amount of time, it's technically not very good on the mind or good on the person. Because when you cram a bunch of information into your brain in a certain amount of time, and then try to go the next morning after staying up very late that night, or, you know, very long time yesterday just trying to study for a certain test, you're probably going to do a lot worse on the test. And that's exactly what happened. Majority of the students of A-Class, they went in after being crammed by the principal, and they got in there, and they did really good the first half. And then as it slowly winded down, as they were just remembering from what they crammed, they lost track of what they were trying to do, and they're like, holy shit, what was this point? Like, you know, what was I cramming here at this point in time? And then they lost their original motive, or they lost their kind of rhythm they had, and now they're not doing as well. And I loved how Koro Sensei was showcasing his teaching method, of how he slowly teaches them in the proper methods, of how he takes it slow, he gives them the methods that's easier to understand for everybody else. He doesn't give everybody the exact same teaching method. He has each individual student have their own teaching method, and he allows it to where they can, you know, learn from their own, abilities. For instance, something that they normally couldn't do from another teacher that just wants to force information on them and cram it into them. So very good stuff throughout this episode, especially with E-Class versus A-Class. Now, getting off that subject, let's talk about the final part. So, Coral Sensei versus the principal. That stuff right there, I'm very hyped up for, because if we get to see the education. These two teachers go up against each other and pit against their intelligence. And Coral Sensei now, this is the first time he's actually had to take a test. And I love this because it's something that has been said, I think, once in Assassination Classroom already. And so I'm going to kind of bring it up and do a quick quote. I don't know who said it, but I do think this was said already, or it was said in Assassination Classroom. Teachers are always learning. Or the person that teaches you is still always learning. They learn every day when they walk in. It's like an adult. Adult goes in and he learns every day, or she or he learns every day when they're teaching their child. And that's exactly what Coral Sensei is doing right now. He's been learning alongside of E-Class as he teaches them. And because of this, when you see how he's finally being tested, I love that. It gets to show you Coral Sensei of what happens when he's put in the environment of a student and how he fares against it. Now, of course, he is very fast. And, I mean, there's an added situation to this, because I mean he has to open up books, solve all the questions and problems on the pages before a bomb goes off, or the bomb can go off just as long as if he doesn't die or croak over, he'll be fine. But I mean, he has to solve every problem on the page without moving away, and this is very fatal because Coral Sensei is going to have to open up multiple books to have anti-Coral Sensei grenades in each individual book, and he cannot run away from the bomb. He's going to have to stand there and take a grenade to the face just for he can do his problems and solve them and prove a point. So very awesome stuff throughout this episode. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.